The webinar is now live and broadcasting. So hi everyone, welcome. We're going to give you a few minutes to log in. I try to keep in touch with all of the names, but it goes by so quickly that it's hard to see everyone. But as always, chat us, tell us where you're coming in from, let us know who's on the line. We are super excited about today's conversation. It's all about partnership. Last year we spent a lot of time just checking in with our clients and making sure that they were okay and what they were going through and kind of what their forecast was. So starting out this year, 2021, we're road to recovery. How do we work together to get this industry moving forward? And that's really what we want to talk about. Hey, Lisa. Lisa and I exchanged emails last night on the time and what was going on today. So really, we want to bring suppliers and buyers together alike and find out how they're working together, find out some of the cool things that maybe you haven't thought of, and really just chatting like we always do, staying in touch with everyone so we can move forward and get this industry moving again. So for those of you that know Todd and Jenny and Amy, you know what you're getting yourself into today. For those of you that don't, hold on tight because we got some good things to talk about. These three have been busy. They were busy last year and they have started the year busy this year. They have a lot going on. So I am really excited to get into the conversation. As you can, Linda from Buford, good to see you. I mean, tons of people logging on here. I love that. But so as we can get started, because we had a call last night, like we always do, kind of prepping to say, hey, what are we going to talk about? And a call that generally is like a 20-minute thing, hey, we all good? Yeah, this is good. Let's talk about this. An hour later, we were still talking. So we know that we are going to talk forever today. So we want to get going so we cover as much as possible and answer as many questions as possible. As always, if you could put your questions in the Q&A box, I'm going to monitor them there, and it's really easy for me to get to everyone there. If you put some in the chat, we're going to find them, but the Q&A box is always easier. And I would be remiss if I didn't call a shout out to Betsy Cooper from Tour Operator Land, who works with me on these webinars and reaches out and finds individuals that are using Tour Operator Land and making sure that we have a really nice mix of people on the website. So if you haven't talked to Betsy and you don't know what Tour Operator Land is, reach out to her. She'll put her information in the chat box. It's a tool you're going to love. So I could introduce everyone, but truly, they're going to explain their companies better than I do. So I'm going to start with Jenny. And Jenny, if you could do like a quick introduction and what your company's about and what your primary focuses are there.
Okay, well, I am Jenny Keeton, and I'm the Director of Operations here at Village Travel. And again, I'm excited to be part of this panel with Connect Travel. Over the past 40 years, Village Travel has grown to be one of the top motor coach companies. We're very diversified. We have companies throughout Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri. We primarily focus on the charter side, so we have over 140 charter coaches. And on the tour side, we plan about 220 tours annually throughout the nation, as well as international cruise throughout that way. The things we work on here is just really kind of getting a widespread variety for our senior groups. So we primarily focus on senior adults for our tour side. And we've grown throughout the years to do the 220. So that's a little bit about the company and a little bit about what we do.
Love it. And if you haven't seen it, Kelly has already done a shout out. We love Village Travel. Go Kansas. So let's, ladies first. Sorry, Todd, we're going to go over to Amy. So Amy, newly National Sales Executive, new promotion for you this year. So tell us about Drury and your role there.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be a part of this. Amy DeFrancesco, I'm with Drury Hotels. We are a family owned and operated hotel company. We're based in the St. Louis metro area. We've got about 150 hotels in 27 states now. And we are really a big player for us is our tour and travel segment. So I am over the tour and the FIT market. So FIT is new to Drury. We're just kind of getting our toes in the water for that. But we really feel like what Drury has to offer is a really good fit for the tour market. So we have been able to keep all of our hotels open this year. Since the pandemic, we have not closed a single hotel. So that's been something that's been really exciting for us to be able to do that in this market was a big feat for us. Although we are bare bones staff, that's for sure.
But you're getting it done, and
Yep.
that's what's awesome. And of course, Renee, St. Louis girls,
Yep.
already calling
Yep.
out, and already people saying that they love your hotels and that you're wonderful. So a little good feeling there already today. And Todd, my friend, how are you?
Good morning or good afternoon. It depends on where you are, but hello. I'm Todd DeHart, and I own Directions Tours. We're based here in the St. Louis metro region. We also have offices in Dallas, Orlando, Florida, and in Wisconsin, central Wisconsin. We're celebrating 20 years this year, so we're really happy about that. Been partners with Drury Hotels almost all those years with Amy. And we're really excited to be here today. We're going to definitely discuss going forward in this crazy market time, and it's something that we need to get back online for all of us. And we do day trips and overnight tours. Our overnight tours are motor coach based, as well as flight tours and cruises worldwide. About 80% of our business is in the United States, so from coast to coast. And we run close to 100 different tours throughout the year. So it's been a challenging year last year, but we're kicking off 2021 very well. Our bookings are great this year already. And with the partnerships we've had, it's been influential in keeping our heads above water in the travel industry. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. So we're going to jump right in and kind of talk about consumer sentiment. And really what I loved about our conversation yesterday, 2020 was hard, no doubt about it. Everybody on this call knows that. But both Jenny and Todd ran tours in 2020, and they stayed with Amy. So there's some kind of partnership that's happening here, and you're doing something right because you ran tours in 2020. You already have tours on the books for 21. You know when they're going out, and your sales are doing well. So what are, and Todd, I'm going to stay with you on this one. What are you hearing from your clients?
Safety first. It really is when I'm going to take you back 6 months ago, of course. It was everybody thought we'd be over it the next month. So, and then once we realized we're in this for a little bit of a long haul here, I think most of our clients were saying, we want to get out, but what can you do to keep us safe? And I think over the last 6 months, really, of the pandemic, I think that more people feel that they can navigate outside of their house and stay safe by taking strict protocols. You're masking, you're washing your hands, social distancing. And by October of last year, we were able to go ahead and start running some socially distanced tours. And we did it with strict protocols and really emphasizing safe travel, because I think that, if you want to try to get back into the business, you really have to make your customer solid that you are going to take care of them out on the road. Smaller groups, safety protocols in the health department, and that's what we started really focusing on. I had a whole department just kind of focus on what we can do to take care of our motor coach travel, because that's really what we've been focusing on most. And I think that's what the customers were really looking for.
I love that. I'm glad that you were able to, and you said something yesterday that I wrote down because I loved it. It was, we took the last 6 months of 2020 and health and safety was a priority, but we learned how to live within the atmosphere that we're living in right now. So now that we know how to live and work in it, let's move forward. And I loved that yesterday because that's what we're doing. And that's how we're moving through 2021. Jenny, what are you hearing from your clients?
Really the same thing that Todd said. They really want to feel comfortable traveling. especially in the senior clientele, they want to get out. They're in their golden years, and losing a year of their travel has been difficult. So you put safety protocols first, making sure it's safe to travel, limiting the size of the coach, but then really communicating with them on our protocols and what we're going to do to make it safe to travel.
I love that. And do you want to share what some of those protocols are?
Well, protocols, we've launched a peace of mind policy that details out the cleanliness of the coach and what we're doing every day, every hour, wiping down things. We are doing temperature checks and health screens with our passengers, social distancing on the coach as well as attractions. Seat rotations have been discontinued, so we pretty much put everybody in their spot, and that's where they stay, where it's customary, in our industry to rotate seats. But those are the primary ones that we do, but it's just keeping everybody clean. We also have, individual hand sanitizer for all of our passengers. So we've got all of that on our website. But again, we do the health screens with the passengers. So there's questions that they have to answer before even going on the tour with temperature checks, and then making sure that they're safe and sanitized on the coach.
I love that. And Todd, you were saying yesterday that was the same for you.
Yes, Jenny at Village and Directions, we're doing almost exactly the same. And when I started looking at what Village Travel was doing out west, it's definitely where I believe tour industry and motor coach industry needs to be. Another thing that Jenny just said was keeping in touch with your customers. I see a lot of companies, they failed in the last year to really keep in touch with their customers. Just because you're not running a tour or getting together for events, these types of events like Zoom with your customers, doing virtual travel shows, travel logs, whatever you can do, and keeping up with social media. We used to just be on Facebook and Twitter. Now it seems like my staff has us on everything, and they're posting, whether it just be a picture of somewhere that we're going or something about Drury Hotels or what's going on in the travel industry. Our people have been interacting so much, and when I say people, our customers have been interacting so much with us on social media that they don't really feel that you're dead in the water. And I believe that, we all see that in any type of industry. If you kind of go out there and float and you don't say hello, especially during a pandemic, you're not going to stay afloat with your customers. You've got to be reminding them, this is what we're working on right now. This is what we're doing here. We're not dead in the water. And it's because of all of you. When you're ready to go, we're ready to take you.
Absolutely. And I can't think of many people that stay in touch with their customers better than you, Amy. And you were out there and you were always in touch with your customers. So obviously Todd and Jenny are strong customers of yours, but from other clients and even with Todd and Jenny, let's talk about what you're hearing that they need from a hotel side and what you've done.
Yeah, so I think it definitely has been important to stay in touch with our operators. I have worked over the years to build relationships and turn those relationships into partnerships and friendships. And so it was really important for me to keep a pulse and to find out, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? What are you hearing? So that I can go back and relay that to the leadership team here and give us a starting point. But it was really important for Drury at the very beginning to be all about safety. And I think as a family-owned company, it was really easy for us to implement our clean and safe procedures, figure out exactly what we were going to do at every hotel and put those in place and implement them starting the next day. So that's something that's really important. I went to one of our hotels and made a video so that I could share that with my accounts, so that not only are we telling you this is what we're doing, but here I am at the hotel. You come in, you see the plexiglass, you see the socially distant markers on the floor, you see the hotel employees wearing masks, you see the one-way direction in the dining room. So all of those things were important, and we're still hearing that it is important to their customers as well, that they want to see those safety practices in place. When Jenny had a tour that ran last fall, and their first night was in St. Louis, I went to the hotel to meet the bus and actually sat in the dining area during kickback with a few of their travelers, and they loved the fact that they saw our team members with masks and gloves, and when someone would get up from a table, they're over there sanitizing not only the table but the chairs, front, backs, bottom, sides. That was mentioned. So those are the things I think our travelers are looking for. And when they get out and see that, it makes them feel confident to continue traveling.
And I couldn't agree with you more. When this is all things we did last year, it's all things we're doing the first half of this year, vaccinations are happening. Do you consider, I mean, do you think these safety protocols will go through the entire year and into 2022? I see everybody's head shaking.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I definitely think I will echo what Amy was saying with the hotel partnership we do with Drury. And I said this yesterday, just among us, that one of the things that we have to look at, especially Jenny and I in the tour operator business, is working with partners that are doing the same protocols we are, because we can't take the chance of taking our customers to an attraction or a hotel or a restaurant that are not going to be doing the same protocols, because that's what our customers are relying on us to do. This is not a gimmick that we're putting out there, and we want people to know this is not a gimmick. We're not going to make sure that you have a mask on the first day. We're going to be taking care of you. We just took a group tour last week into Georgia and Florida, and we stayed with Drury Hotels throughout. And I'll tell you what, I will echo what Amy said. You walk into a Drury hotel, they're masked. They even tell people that walk in, you're not welcome if you don't wear a mask, and they'll give them a mask for free. They're wiping down everything. And even when I got on the elevator on the 4th floor in the Valdosta, Georgia location, one of the Drury reps was wiping down the inside of the elevator. And she said, oh, excuse me, I'm just wiping, and she came off. But those are the things that our people are looking for. Our customers want to make sure those protocols are throughout the entire tour. And I think it is going to go through 2021. I mean, I'm going to myself, even with vaccines, we still have to be respectful to every other one of us out there. And I think it's something that we're going to have to look at. And in being a tour operator, we're going to have to keep our numbers smaller on the coaches and still try to offer these great packages. And Jenny, I think you're probably doing the same thing, aren't you?
Absolutely, yes. We're really looking at properties that have a policy in place, and if they don't have protocols in place, then we're not going to go there. I mean, and Drury has done a great job. They did videos, and she shared videos with me, which made us really feel comfortable. And there's other properties out there that have as well. But I think that communicating with the tour operators or even any customer about the safety protocols is key. Also with breakfast. And so if you're serving breakfast, I want to know about it. I want to know how it works and what it looks like and how we're, serving people. So that's very important as well, because it says a lot about, I'm sitting behind a desk, so I don't physically get to see the hotel that we've chosen. And I think just getting that gut feel and looking at their protocols is key right now.
And that brings up a good point. One of the questions that we've had continually since we started doing these webinars is if a type of certification made you stand out more, a health and clean, a safe and clean certification. But I know it helps, but what I'm hearing here is it's not necessarily the certification. You want to see those protocols in action. Mm-hmm. And that's going to give your consumers a better feel for a safety to travel.
Absolutely.
And I think it's great. We have some questions, so I'm going to jump in real quick before we continue on this line. And Jenny and Todd, this is for you. We've had 3 people, Michael, Skip, and Lisa, all ask, what are your capacity restrictions? I know from talking you're not filling up your buses, but what is the number that you're taking on a coach?
Go ahead, Jenny.
Hypothetically, we could take on a standard motor coach anywhere between 40 and 50 people. we love to have 50 people prior to COVID, which pretty much fills the coach up. Right now, our comfort is, 50% capacity. It's really hard to social distance on a coach. And so to get 100% social distancing is really not going to happen. So that's why you have to have the clean and safety protocols in place. So we're really at 50% capacity. So the numbers that we really feel comfortable is, less than 30, somewhere between 25 and 30, which at that point, when we price a tour out, I mean, we are, historically pricing it out to have 40 people. And so, or more. So now when we have less capacity, it really cuts into margins. And that's something that, I think we'll bring up later in the call, but that's really where our limitations are.
I totally agree with that. Thank you. And it does. The margins, and I think, Sherry, you'll bring this up later in the call about how we all have to work together in this pandemic, because we are running smaller groups. Right now, our protocols are dictating that we're doing 16 to 20 people on a motor coach, on a full motor coach. And so we're talking about a full size 55 passenger motor coach. And so right now with 16 to 20 people, as Jenny said, it is hard to keep those protocols, especially when you have a lot of single travelers. A few years ago, we dropped our large single supplement rate. So our travelers have very low single rates. So we get a lot of travelers that are going as singles, and then you have to seat them in a single two-seated area on the motor coach, which makes it even more difficult. We do ask that if travelers are traveling together, of course, husband and wives, couples, but also roommates, that if they can accommodate and make sure that they're both safety before the tour, that they'll sit together. That does help with the social distancing on board. So those passenger numbers are very, very limited right now, and the customer doesn't want to have to pay extra, and they shouldn't have to pay extra. It's a pandemic. Everybody's wallets are tightened right now, and in order to make this work, in order to make group tours work and get people back out traveling and feel comfortable with it, I really do believe that we're all going to have to work together here, especially in budgets.
Flexibility and partnership communication key. I mean, that we've heard that, we've talked about that. But on this line, Casey, hey Casey, how you doing? Has a great question. If you're limiting your capacity to 50%, are you taking the hit, or do you have to charge more? I mean, that goes right hand in hand with what you were talking about, Todd.
I mean, we're taking a hit. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
Nobody's going to want to pay more than what they did in 2019. So we can't pass those costs over. And so even with, like Todd said, running 16 to 20, you're breaking even. You're not making any money. And at times you might be even losing a little bit. But the goal here is to get people comfortable traveling again. And so if we need to break even and not make a dime, we're at least getting people out comfortable traveling. They're seeing the protocols in place. But no, we at this point, we have not raised our rates, and our margins are next to nothing.
I totally agree with Jenny on that 100%. And it is about getting the traveler comfortable and growing from there, because it is starting, it's like baby steps, really. And one of the things that we're learning from our social distancing tours, when they're coming off of the tour, they're saying, I was more safe on a directions tour than I was going into the grocery market today. And that makes me feel good, because we are literally cleaning the coach at every stop. Our drivers are taking care of that, as Village Travel is too. And I'll tell you what, those are the things that they're going to see and they're going to recognize. And once again, it's not a gimmick. We're taking care of you. And, even, before leaving the coach and standing up and everything on the coach, make sure you're taking care of your safety, having your mask on, things like that. So it is definitely pinching the pennies, but if we're all going to survive in this business, this is what we have to do.
And Amy, knowing that you're hearing this, and I know you've already heard this from Jenny and Todd because you're working with them quite a bit, how are you guys really tackling, knowing that operators are taking a hit, knowing that they need partnership and help from you? How are you interacting and tackling that with them?
Yeah, so I knew last year if we had any hopes of tours running that it was going to be with small numbers. So we we put together a promotion. We called it Bounce Back. And like together we're better. We value these partnerships. So we understand that. So we automatically reduced our concessions. We lowered our comp policy. There's no reason to say you're going to offer a comp 1 for 20 when there's most likely no way they're going to have 20 rooms on most tours right now. So we looked at that, like how can we be a better partner? I'm always looking for that. What can I do to be a better partner? A partnership is always win-win, but at the end of the day, sometimes some this time you may give a little more, the next time they may give a little more. And I think that that's really what it was about. And we just reached out. We said, what would it take to make your tour run? If you're low numbers, let me know. Let me see, can I sharpen my pencil a little more? I would rather have, 10 rooms for 5 nights than no rooms for 5 nights. So how can I get creative? What can we do to help you make that tour run? And I think that that takes all of us working together.
And if I can interrupt real quick with Drury Hotels, Sherry, Amy has done that, and she's probably one of the only hotel systems that is doing that for us. And Jenny and I were talking yesterday about it, and when you call a certain hotel, and a lot of franchise hotels have to stick to what corporate's saying, and that's fine. It's just that when you are working with a group tour company, we're going to bring you an easy group. Mainly, they're going to be 50 plus. A lot of them will make their bed when they leave the hotel. It's just that kind of a clientele you're bringing. They're easy, but we're not hearing. Oh yeah, we'll go ahead and give you a comp right now for your driver. At least give us something, because it used to be 1 for 20. Well, that was easy for Jenny and I to get 1 for 20 back then. Right now, when you have 12 rooms, I mean, on our next tour leaving in a couple of weeks, again, we're working with Drury Hotels because they are working with us in the industry, and we are designing our tours around 24 states where Drury Hotels are right now, because Amy is doing that for us, and that's providing us an opportunity to provide our customers a valuable tour, with those safety protocols in mind. And I know that Jenny's going to talk a lot about the national parks. I hope you will, Jenny, because we talked about that. Because the national parks are making it very difficult this year, and of course, everybody wants to get out to the national parks and just be outside. But we need the cooperation and the help to bring our groups to these great destinations, with the protocols in place. But they're not making it quite easy for tour operators right now.
No, absolutely not. And to kind of second Todd, another thing that has stood out that Drury's done, and a few other properties, is committed to hot breakfast. And I really think that the hot breakfast is key. And right now we are contacting hotels in other areas and asking them, of course, about safety protocols, but also about breakfast offerings. And there's a lot of properties that are saying, we don't know if we'll have breakfast, but the rate's the same or higher than what it was in 2019. So for them, they've kept the hot breakfast, they've kept the kickback. They have put things into place where it's safe to have breakfast. The breakfast pretty much remains the same, but they've made those adjustments. So I think that's another key thing, is for tour operators, breakfast is important. And to say that they'll get a muffin and an orange juice is just not acceptable, for our groups.
So absolutely. So I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead, Amy.
No, I was just going to say that was important for us as a brand. That's what Drury's known for, is our amenities. And that's what people expect that from us. So we had to pivot really quickly to figure out how we were still going to provide that hot breakfast to our travelers. And I think that that's something that if you really want to do it, you'll find a way to make that happen. And if you want to have the group tour business, understand that breakfast is basically a requirement. So you want to figure that out. The other thing I was going to say is, for all the hoteliers out there, one thing I've also focused on is finding partnerships in my own backyards and attractions that are close to my hotels, and then seeing how can we partner together in that respect, because we all have limited budget dollars this year for shows or for marketing or for anything like that. So if you can find an attraction and you can partner with them and figure out, okay, what's the best price we can offer together, so that if a group comes to you, you're going to refer them to my hotel. And if a group comes to me, I'm going to say, if you want to take in this attraction while you're here, here's a rate you can get. And it's going to be the lowest rate. They can't find that anyplace else. And so that gives you power of the partnership by double the marketing, double the word of mouth. It's on their social media. It's on your social media. So I think those are things moving forward that are going to be more important than ever, is for us to find who we can work together with to get those tours back into our cities.
I cannot wait until we jump into marketing full force, because I totally agree with you. So we have about 7 questions in the Q&A. So I want to wrap up motor coach and capacity and health and safety so we can get these answered for everyone. Diego has a question. Knowing that you're reducing stuff to 50% on your motor coaches, some of your suppliers aren't doing the same, airlines or attractions, anything. They don't have the same type of protocols. They don't have the same type of reductions. Does it make it hard for you guys to put together a tour? And is that leading your decision on who you work with?
Absolutely, it does. Again, we're looking at the protocols for all attractions, and we're seeing what type of capacity limitations they have, because we want to make it safe not only on the motor coach but also at the specific attractions and hotels. So it makes it very difficult, because we might have gone to a specific attraction at one on the specific tour, but we might have to replace it with something else, which gets really difficult. And on the flip side of it, there might be, a place that we've went to numerous times and we have a working relationship, but they're not taking any groups, or they're not taking more than 10. So then we have to look to split the group up into 2 or 3, and then that takes more time. So we're adjusting schedules. We are finding, fill-in attractions. Or there's times that we have a routing issue because we have to spend 3 hours because we have to break into 3 groups. So definitely the limitations on attractions, whether it's light or they're allowing whatever they want, has really affected our decisions and the attractions that we choose.
It also is costing us more money because if we want to, for example, with the group that we just had down in Amelia Island, Florida, the only way that we were able to offer the cruise that we really wanted our people to take on that tour, socially distanced, was to charter the entire boat. Well, that instead of a $26 per person, it's now $50 per person. But we still want to offer that because it's the main attraction. I have a group going in a couple of weeks to Mobile, Alabama. The same situation is there. These the suppliers are welcoming tours to come in a lot of ways, as long as we're going to have the protocols in place, or we're going to have a less capacity. However, the rates are not really always showing that. And that's not for all suppliers. I'm just saying from what I'm seeing out there, and I think Jenny too, for another boat cruise in Mobile, Alabama, sure, you're welcome to bring your 16 people that you're going to have on the boat. However, we're going to have to charter the whole boat. We're not going to go ahead and accept the regular per person rate because we're going to have to do the boat. Now, I understand their bottom dollar is there as well. But if that boat cruise is going out with 3 people and it can have 18 people on it, maybe in some way they can work with us in offering the same rate. It's just really, really difficult to have to pay those extra charges to make sure those social distancing protocols are in place in a lot of places.
Absolutely. And that's along the same lines of a question from Thomas. And I'm going to direct this to you, Todd, because it doesn't affect you as much, Jenny, because you're also a charter business that have your own coaches. But curious as to if coach companies are lowering their costs since the capacity is diminished to 50%.
It depends. And we found that out. Our motor coach supplier, we have 3 of them throughout the United States, East Coast, West Coast, and Central. And our main motor coach supplier in the Central region really was not wanting to work with us. I believe that, when your overhead is a little bit higher, Directions has been in business for 20 years, and I've always said that we've always never run in credit on credit, and that's one thing that you have to expect to have recessions and pandemics now, obviously. And if you don't have those types of slush funds or run a business conservatively, you might be in that boat. And what happens with a lot of charter companies is they might be growing a little too fast, or they have too many coaches that they're leasing and making payments on. There are some that own their motor coaches, which they don't have the overhead, or smaller. And we have been actually 3 other motor coach companies throughout the United States, and not close to the central St. Louis metro region, have actually entertained us to use their motor coaches because they're not moving. And we've had a company out of Florida, which was doing our East Coast tours. And they're more than willing. They have relocated a motor coach here and a driver without doing the deadhead charges, just to take our tours, because we are doing tours and they need that motor coach on the road. And if they don't have that motor coach on the road, it's sitting there making absolutely zero money. It goes back to Amy saying, would you rather have 10 rooms empty or 10 rooms full? And even if you're not making that much, it's running. And that's important, I think, especially when you're paying insurance and everything else on your coaches. And I know Jenny was saying that about Village. Village has been staying, well, Jenny, I'll tell them that Village has been staying very busy because you had a lot of contract work outside of just your tours, which really helped and diversified, but even with Jenny, she's able to now, go to, I'm sure, her rotor coach department and say, look, I've got a tour. We got to get these people running, even if it's not going to make us that much money on the motor coach end. It's going to keep us running. Am I right about that, Jenny?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the key things for us when we are slow is trying to keep our drivers busy and keep them employed, because
Right.
that's an important piece to us. And so if we have an opportunity to get our drivers moving, and we have 300, almost 300 drivers, to get them employed is key to us. So we'll do whatever it takes to get a coach rolling and to get people traveling and to get our drivers employed.
Those are some really good examples of partnership. I love a coach relocating from Florida to partner with you and get some stuff done. And I'm looking through our questions here. We are going to move, and I'm going to ask one more health and safety question. And this is really directed towards you, Amy, but I'd love to hear how Jenny and Todd would potentially deal with this as well. If anybody gets sick for the duration of the tours, how are you handling that? What's a protocol for that? And specifically for you, Amy, for a hotel, what is your flexible extended stay process and possible quarantine process?
So it's really that's on a case by case basis, and so it would depend. Typically, we don't want someone checking into the hotel to quarantine that's we know is infected, kind of thing. However, if someone gets sick in the hotel, it's not like you can just throw them out. So there is, a process. With the hotel specifically would work with the tour operator, would work with the guest, and we would see, how can we get that guest home where they need to be? What can we all do together? But yeah, it is definitely on a case by case basis. happy to say that we have not had to experience that
Yeah.
at this point, fingers crossed. So
Perfect. And Todd, Jenny, about the same?
Yeah, so when the pandemic hit, of course, along with the health screens, temperature checks, we were kind of forced into doing a waiver. And the waiver kind of outlines, not only protects the passenger, but also protects, the company. And that outlines what our protocols are in the event that somebody gets sick. And it's a little touchy because it kind of depends on a situation, but at the end of the day, if somebody gets sick on a tour, they're responsible for, their own transportation home, because we have to separate them from the group. We can't leave them with the group. And that's why, travel insurance is really key. And we've really pushed that. And Todd, you referred to that, and you've got a great policy in place, which I'd love to hear more about. But health insurance is key.
Right here. Yeah.
That's right. I'm going to be talking to you, Todd. So it's really key to do that. But I think most of the passengers, they understand that. We make sure that we explain it. Again, it's all about communication and letting them know that, if somebody gets sick, they are immediately removed from the group. And as far as the rest of the group, whether, we're already on our way home or we turn around and go back, that's really the protocol that we would have in place in the event somebody gets sick.
I'll echo that as well. We do the standard health questionnaire. We do that 1 month prior, and then we remind them 2 weeks before. They'll have to sign a waiver as well. We're going to do everything possible, we say, to keep them safer than they are at home. And one of the things that we also are doing is the temperature checks. We do them every day. And so before they leave the hotel and even get back on the motor coach, we're doing that. Knock on wood, we have not had a problem. We do ask people before their tour to keep their interactions safe, at least 2 weeks prior, knowing that they're going to be going on a tour with other people. And one of the things that it does say outlined in our tour information packets that they will receive about a month before is if we do have one case of COVID and it is deemed COVID, and we will make sure we will get in touch with the local health authorities and their emergency contacts, everything like that. We would have to leave them behind, but we will, if you will, take that tour home because they have been exposed on board that motor coach, and we don't want anyone else to be falling off in numbers if we keep traveling. And Jenny said the same thing. It's going to be one of those things where we know we have been exposed in the close quarters, and we're going to, even though we're taking all those protocols just to be on a safety measure, we are going to turn around and come home. One thing that Jenny said, that to make our clients feel better about getting out, we've always left travel cancellation insurance or interruption insurance on a personal basis. We've always stressed a habit, especially if you're going to go on an international tour, flight tour, or if you're going to take a cruise. We had a very lenient cancellation policy prior to the pandemic with a sliding scale over a month of getting a refund back or getting credits in your account. But at this time, running on these smaller numbers, we knew that we were going to have to protect our value here. So we started including a cancellation insurance policy. I know that some people out there always had took cancellation insurance out, but it is a little bit more of an expense. It's between $100 and $200 you can expect on a $1,000 or $2,000 tour, and so it was something that was very personally important for me as a company to offer our clients. And so instead of offering it as additional amount, we decided to go ahead and include it. So all of our tours departing now, if you sign up after your final payment date, which is about 45 days prior, you are insured to get your monies back completely, 100% refund if you should have to cancel.
That's wonderful that you're able to offer that.
But again, it's one of those things though, Sherry, that is eating into the profit because we are still maintaining, like Jenny said, we're still maintaining our prices. And so, but we need to get the traveling public out again. And the only way you can do that is to really insure them and assure them that you are doing everything possible. And I know Jenny's doing the same thing. They're offering that travel insurance policy. And I always say for what little bit it is, $100, $200 extra, the peace of mind, and that's what Village is calling theirs, that peace of mind of not worrying, you're ready to go. And if something would happen, and it also covers your, if you have a death in the family or somebody in their home that has, COVID or something happens. So it's important. I think travel insurance is extremely important.
And absolutely, especially right now.
Especially.
Bob has a question that kind of plays into that. He's the real answer. We can't break even forever, right? So we're doing it now, and we're proving that we can do it safely, travel safely, and we're helping the industry move forward. But pull out your crystal ball and what you've heard from your clients. When do you think that people are going to be willing to pay the higher prices again? When do you think you can raise prices on what's going on? And this is for you too, Amy. We know there's going to be a pent up travel demand. We know people are going to travel again, but when do you think people would be willing to pay a higher price?
I honestly think it's going to be a good year from now, if even that. What I'm hearing from people, and again, I'm having a really difficult time with attractions committing to, us going in the fall, because they're living in the current times. They're raising rates, they're reducing comps, and again, I get that concept because they're trying to recoup. But I'm also seeing higher hotel rates, which is not helping our profit margins. With the few tours that we have released, and even if it's increased, $20, we're hearing about that. In addition, I've heard from a lot of customers that have said, we can't wait until you release this because it's going to probably be cheaper in 2019 because the airlines are cheaper and the cruise lines are running specials, and their expectation is kind of lined out that way because that's what the other, airlines and cruises are offering. And the reality is we're not seeing that from the vendor. So it makes it really difficult because that is their perception. I honestly think that most of our passengers or customers are going to expect tours to be less than they were in 2019. They're not expecting an increase. I think there's going to be a pent-up demand for tours because once everybody's vaccinated, I think sometime around early fall, a lot of people, especially in the senior market, are going to want to go out. They've wasted, a year and a half of their travel time in their golden years, and they're going to be ready to travel. I'm not sure what expense they're going to want to pay, or they're going to be comfortable in group travel. But the reality is, it's going to take a good year and a half to kind of get through that cycle. So I would say it's going to be next summer before they're going to want to pay any more at the earliest.
I totally agree. We're already seeing increase in hotels. We're already seeing, if you look at air schedules beyond May, their prices are very high. They're getting you, one of the things with airlines, as I've noticed, is they're getting you on a really great one way, but coming home, they're going to really stick it to you. $99 one way, great offer, $305 to return home. And it's, so I see how they're marketing it, but at the same time, if those prices, this is not a time to really raise prices. This is a time to sustain, to get the travelers back. If it's an individual traveler who is able to travel, they might be willing to pay it because they've been cooped up and ready to go. But when you have a travel package, whether it's a tour company package or a travel agent package, that's when you have all of those inclusions, and those inclusions are those suppliers, and those suppliers have got to work with the tour companies and travel agents, because if they don't, it's just going to be really, really difficult because we are a package. If you go on your own, okay, you just paid weigh amounts on your hotel, weigh amounts on your airline, and you might just sit at the beach the whole time or do something on your own. And you might say, well, I can't do that museum or that attraction because we spent the money here. But for us in the tour operating industry, people go with us because it's an inclusive package. It makes it easier. And we're finding that more and more people 50 plus are going on tours, even younger people. And we're doing, different types of tours for those market people. And I definitely would, I plead to people that are in the hotel business like Amy, and Amy gets it. She understands it. But I'm pleading to those big corporate groups. The lucky thing about Drury Hotels is they are family owned and operated. They build every one of their hotels. They understand the value of the dollar. They're not franchised. They don't have the big overhead. And I'm pleading to companies out there that are the big corporate groups to go back and reevaluate what they're going to do for the tour and travel industry, especially us in the tour companies, because it's going to be very difficult for us to not raise our rates in the end of the year if we don't have that partnership.
And I think the one thing that's really important, and Todd and I talked about this yesterday, was, tour operators are big on developing relationships, and we don't like to shop around. Again, once we have a connection with a hotel or an attraction, we want to stick there. We want to trust our customers already liked going there. We've already had a good experience, but when we're seeing rate increases, it causes us more work because it forces us to shop around. And then we have to ask a lot of questions and find the right replacement property, because we have to get the prices down, and we don't want to ruin those relationships. We want to keep and retain those relationships. So again, just kind of tagging off of what Todd said, it's just key to try to do as much as you can for us, especially right now. And like Amy said earlier, develop partnerships in the area with other attractions or even restaurants to try to get something else to offer us that could maybe help bring the price down if we're already going to go to different attractions there. I know a few states, Louisville and Nashville, do that now. And you contact a hotel or an attraction and they've got a whole package built, and it's a really attractive deal. And so hats off to Louisville and Nashville if anybody's on here, but they do great.
I think that one of the biggest issues that I've been having with developing the new tours is where to take people to eat that's safe. I'm finding that a lot of restaurants are just, and restaurants have had their problems, obviously, 100%. We hear it on the news all the time, but the travel industry is 100 times worse, right? Then we can't do takeout. We can't do any type of operations. We just have to pause our operations and have a new front on us. And but one of the things that I'm finding is I'll call a restaurant and say, can you social distance my group in a back room? And most of the answers are no, they can't do it. And or they don't even want to try to do it. So we're having to cater a lot of our dinners in. And Drury Hotels has been very good about this. Amy and I were just working on getting a room for doing some catering in one of our hotels, because I can't trust the other public that are going to be in that restaurant when people have to remove their PPE. And it's just one of those things that that's a big question we've had from our clients is, where are we going to eat? What are we doing for dinner? What are we doing for breakfast? Blah, blah, blah. And it's been very difficult finding restaurants who are really having a hard time that really can't find us a room, or an area in the restaurant for 15 to 20 people. It really is disheartening when I keep hearing no. And I just had an email from a restaurant in Mobile that's a very famous restaurant there, and they were just like, no, we can't do it. We can cater it, and by the way, it's 1 per 20. Well, there you are again. They can't even feed my driver. How can I keep a partnership with somebody who I've been loyal to for all of this time when you just are not working with us, and we tend to go and shop somewhere else. We don't want to do it. Makes a lot more work for us too. And it's unfortunate.
What did you say?
So we have 5 minutes left. So I knew this was going to go fast. We haven't even talked about marketing, but Jenny and Todd and Amy are all doing great marketing together. They have some great ideas. They've agreed to come back on for like part 2 because we knew that we would be talking a lot about this. So I've already set that up. They've agreed. We're going to do that. So we're going to do some rapid fire because we have 7 questions in the queue that I want to get to for everyone. And 3 of them kind of cover the same topic. Linda wants to know if you're including more outdoor activities for your tours, especially even for the senior groups, dining, walking tours, boat tours. And on top of that, I think everyone on the call wants to know if you're sourcing new product, and if they can send you more information. And Teresa Terry's curious about where your tours are going. So I'm going to let you guys include this all in one answer. Annie is curious, and I think this goes into what you're kind of talking about with national parks, is if you're having a challenge doing multi-city tours in different states and all of the different protocol and how you're kind of handling that. So there we go. We're going to say, okay, outdoor activities.
Jenny, I think you should go because I loved how you pointed out the national park system. So,
Well, I mean, thanks, Todd. One of the biggest struggles, we did a survey with all of our customers, and the one thing that they wanted is national parks. And I mean, those are key. And the struggles on the national parks are real. And the national parks are still down to 10 per coach or per bus, per anything. But in addition, they've also limited the size of the bus or the size of the coach to, a size that we don't carry. Most motor coach operators don't. So at the end of the day, most of the parks have already suspended all of 2021. You've got Grand Canyon, Yellowstone's kind of on the fence, and Zion, that basically, as it stands right now, are not allowing us to come in, which makes it really difficult because a lot of our tours have incorporated national parks throughout the US. And right now, that's all in limbo. So that affects not only the tours that we have, which means that we have to kind of branch out to other areas and recreate tours because a lot of our tours are national park based. So yeah, we are looking for other options. But it's going to affect, if there's anybody on this call with the vendors who are in those areas, it's going to affect your business as well. And so, we've got, an IMG group that is working on a coalition to kind of get the word out there to try to open up these parks, or at least get some better protocols in place for the groups. But it's still in limbo, and it's limbo for the rest of 2021 right now.
And another thing that with the national parks is UMA has really been instrumental about helping us with the permits to go into national parks, the UCAs, and it's been very difficult because they're very expensive, and those prices are still the same. So whether you're taking a smaller coach with 10 people, you're still paying $200 to $600 to enter the park because you are a tour company. And that's hard, and we have clients, and I know you do too, Jenny, that will say, oh, I have the national park pass, will that help? Well, it doesn't. A motor coach and a tour operator are going to pay for not only for our certificates to go into the parks, and every park is different, none of them work together, and then on top of it, you're going to have to pay the entrance fee. Well, now instead of 50 people paying that entrance fee, which is going to break it down to $10 per person, you're now looking at well over $50 to $75 per person just to go into the national park.
Mm-hmm. There are still challenges out there that we're going to get through. We're going to work together to get through them. I'm going to wrap up a couple of questions here because we have 1 minute. So Sarah wants to know if you use CVBs for planning, and if you do, what can CVBs do differently that they haven't done for you before to help you right now? And I'm going to expand that question and throw that out to hotels and attractions. What do you need right now?
I mean, I can take this. Amy already alluded to it. Yes, I reach out to CVBs to get some, especially right now, hey, what's in the area? What's group friendly? What's open? And they've all been very supportive. So probably more than I have in the past. However, what I really think would be helpful is looking at some package type deals where you get 3 or 4 attractions together, so it can be kind of a package deal, would help with pricing. So if the areas can reach out, maybe, hotel, attractions, restaurants, or at least understanding, in your area, what attractions are open, what their protocols are, what are group friendly restaurants right now that are safe for groups to go into. That's key. So those are really the 2 things that I think the CVBs could really be instrumental on.
That's
I
great.
agree with that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know, really quick, I agree totally 100%. And the CVBs that we are working for, we just went into Albany, Georgia, a very small town. They were elated to have us. And normally they'll charge $10 to go through the museum. No problem. They let our people in. They want to welcome us because they were like, you're the only tour coach we've seen in a year, and those CVBs are so instrumental, especially like you're saying, Amy, you've been working so directly with those people.
Yes. I definitely think it's really important to keep those relationships and to keep in contact. And we have to work together. Together we are better. And it's going to take all of us giving a little bit to get us back on the road where we want tours to be.
Absolutely. And Todd beat me to it. I was going to come to you, Amy, and I know that you've worked with attractions in your area around your hotels. Have you put together packages with restaurants as well?
I have worked with some restaurants, and I'm also on the board for Destination Greater Pittsburgh. And we are working now, we have itineraries on the website, and we're really working with our members there to offer what can we do to work together to get that restaurant and the hotels and the attractions and get those packages together for you.
Perfect. And I have now kept you over. I've now kept you over the 1 hour limit that I promised. So Emily, to your question, yes, you're going to get everybody's contact information on our follow-up that we'll send out tomorrow. So you'll have the recording that you can share with partners. You'll have contact information for everyone on the panel. So you can reach out to them with maybe product ideas or some solutions to some of the challenges that we were talking about today. And Casey and Terry, I know you guys have a couple of questions outstanding, and we will get you those answers. I'll ask them offline, and I will email you the answers so you will have them. So as we're wrapping up the call today. So last thoughts, quickly, words of wisdom. Any words of wisdom as we end this call, as we move into our 2021 Road to Recovery? Amy?
I think it's just keep reaching out, stay in touch, learn what can you do, ask what can I do to help. I think that's important.
Perfect. Jenny, what about you? Words of wisdom?
I think hang in there. I think, we'll get through it, and we'll get through it together, developing partnerships and communication. But I see a light at the end of the tunnel. And if we're all working together, we're all going to get through it, and we're all going to be better because we're going to have better relationships. Even Todd and I wouldn't have typically probably had this kind of conversation just because tour operators are kind of by themselves. They work with vendors, but I've loved every minute that Todd and I've had, and I've developed other relationships with other tour operators through my other groups. So we're all working together, which is really going to be beneficial to all of our organizations, not only just on the tour operator side, but on the vendor side as well.
Perfect. And Todd, words of wisdom.
I cannot agree more with Amy and Jenny. We have to stay resilient, do whatever you can. It's the hardest thing for me is my employees, keeping them and maintaining that transparency with everybody, and just be honest. Just say, this is what I can afford. What can you do for me? And those that want to partner and those that see the real factor in the bottom line and the way they're going to survive, the survival are going to be the ones like all of us coming together and making this happen. And thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time. We are getting in the Q&A and on the chat a lot of thank yous for taking the time, for sharing, for really giving people things to talk about. So I appreciate you all. Thank you for taking the time and staying late. Sorry I kept you late, but we'll come back for part 2 because we got a lot of marketing to talk about. So thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Have a great weekend, and we will be back next Thursday. Tune in then. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.